All right, hey guys, welcome to the show. Today I'm joined by Tristan, the co-founder of Zeta Markets. It's great to have you on, man. Thanks so much for joining.
And thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, this should definitely be fun. Zeta Markets is, one of the projects that I'm watching really closely right now. So a lot of exciting stuff going on. But before we get too deep into things, could you just give the audience a quick background story on yourself and, why you're actually building in crypto?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess my background, I come from a bit more of a technical background. I did a undergrad in CS and robotics. So I've always really loved building, I think, deep technical things. And kind of since then, I worked in the Bay Area as a data scientist and software engineer for a couple of years. Really enjoyed the kind of challenging real world problems there. And then I think it was always a bit of a dream of mine to go back to startups, and crypto is something that's been pretty interesting to me for the last couple of years. I got into it, introed via a friend in 2017, as I think a lot of people did, and was just kind of mucking around with what was going on in the ecosystem. I wouldn't say that I got super deep into the building side of things, but it was more recently, I guess last year, that I was hearing a lot of buzz about smart contract programming and DeFi and all that kind of stuff that was happening. And I got really interested and started playing around with it when I had free time off from work. And, it ended up just becoming, I guess, very interesting to me and ended up just like leaving my job and doing this full time as a startup with, some of my best friends, which I think is an incredible opportunity and something I really love doing.
Yeah, it's super interesting. How was robotics and stuff like that? Like, were you interested in that before you went to college for it, or is that something you kind of just stumbled across?
Yeah, it was definitely difficult. I think when I started university, or I guess what you call college, I
Yeah.
didn't have a very strong idea of what I wanted to do. I think from the early days, I knew I was like pretty decent at like math. I wouldn't say I was amazing, but science was something that really interested me. So I thought STEM would be the right way to go. Engineering seemed very practical, and it's like you can get a job out of it. So I thought let's go down that route. I actually paid almost zero attention to computer science and software engineering because I thought this would be incredibly boring. You just sit in front of a computer and there's like not much you can do. So I wanted to go down like the more mechanical engineering pathway, and then
Yeah.
ended up changing my mind a few years down the track. I was doing my like physics major for science, which is really interesting and gets you to think from first principles, but it's just like very heavy maths, and I honestly struggled pretty hard in it.
Mhm.
Um, but then yeah, robotics was saying, I just kind of picked it as my elective for engineering because I thought, hey, robots are pretty cool. Like let's build some robots. And it's just like a lot of math subjects for the first couple of years. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of good, but you don't really see the application of it. And then in the final year, it's like you start doing the programming, you build things, they kind of like are automated and run. And I was like, this is really cool. And I did like a research project with like the uni group that was there that did robotic stuff, and we were building like self-driving cars or like buggies essentially for like mobility and stuff like that. So I was doing some of the sensor systems and doing some like the steering systems. I found that stuff really cool, and definitely if I wasn't doing crypto, I would definitely be doing that. But I ended up not going down the academia route and thought it'd be more fun to work in the industry and startups.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting background. Haven't met anybody that was really into robotics and that kind of thing. So yeah, really cool. And I think, your background definitely has some, impact on the success of, Zeta. And I think that your team is, doing really good stuff. I think you guys have a lot of good people on the team and really working hard. So that's really exciting to see. Zeta was the winner of the Solana season hackathon for anybody who doesn't know that. Big congrats on that. That's really awesome.
Thank you.
What led to your decision to actually choose Solana? And like, what was it, like building in a hackathon versus, just building on your own?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And so we were kind of mucking around, I would say, early in the year on what exactly to build. And we threw around a couple of ideas, stuff like fixed rate lending, under collateralized loans. And then we ended up migrating to options, thinking that that would be, I guess, a good niche that they were pretty specialized and skilled at. Some of my co-founders are coming from, I guess, trading firms who've actually professionally traded options. So we thought we had a good bit of edge in that, and it was something that people hadn't really built before. We ended up doing a bit of a comparison amongst all the different platforms out there. I guess your kind of Ethereum layer 2 solutions. We talked to the Arbitrum guys. We I guess looked at like Polkadot and a few others and just trying to figure out what suited our needs. And I think it was, yeah, just getting in touch with Dom from Solana kind of early on. We were just kind of putting out feelers, and he put us in a like Zoom meeting with Anatoly and Bartos, like, you know, a couple of weeks into our project, and we just chatted to them. And I'd read the white paper at that point, and I was pretty impressed with like how it worked, and it was pretty like smart and intuitive. And the fact that they just had stuff working, it's not like Ethereum L2, it's like this is coming sometime this year or maybe next year. And, you know, there was a lot of uncertainty. It's like Solana is like, here we've got this network. It does 50,000 TPS, try and break it. You know, it's going to work. And that kind of really impressed me. And we were thinking, hey, we have to build this DeFi derivative system. It's got to be really performant. It's got to be able to do liquidation super quickly. Otherwise, you know, you're going to be in a lot of trouble on the platform. And we want to get to, I guess, that NASDAQ level of speed and scalability, which is what Anatoly will always be talking about. So we thought it was a really great fit for us. And we got a lot of pushback, obviously, like most investors or other people, because Solana wasn't that popular. I think when we started at the start of the year, it was like not even in the top 30 at that point. So people like somewhat knew about it. I think if they were kind of like pretty deep into the space, but I guess most of my casual friends and just like general people in the ecosystem, like everything is Ethereum, Bitcoin, and some of the others. And so no one paid too much attention. And yeah, we definitely copped a lot of flack. A lot of people were like, why would you build on Solana? It's like a ghost chain, like no one does anything there, no one knows about it. And then here we are 6 months later, Solana's at like close to, it's like 150 or something or other, went up to $200, and everyone's talking about it. And now it's like, you know, well into the top 10. It's kind of crazy how far it's come.
Yeah, it's really awesome to see how much Solana has grown, and not just in price and market cap, and just the community overall, and how many projects
Yep.
are being built here is insane. I think the hackathons and going down that route of bringing on a ton of developers and teams to actually build on Solana has been one of the key driving factors to its success. Because like if you look around the other layer ones, I feel like you don't see the hackathons nearly as much, or like incentives for people to actually come on that chain and build over like something like Ethereum. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's really cool to
I
see all the
definitely agree
teams
with
that
that.
come out of that.
Yeah, exactly. I think the hackathons that they've run have actually done an incredibly good job, and it literally just gets thousands of teams in the door. And even though a lot of them, I'm sure, would churn, you end up getting quite a few teams that end up continuing and having really good success. And I guess back to your original question, what was it like building in the hackathon? Like it was really fortunate timing for us, because I think we were just getting off the ground essentially, and we wanted to prove ourselves. Not having, I guess, a strong network already in the space because we were a bit newer. I think it's like we have good technical skills, we know how to build a product, and so this was a really great way to like demonstrate, I guess not theoretically, but like in practice what we could do. So we thought we've got to give this hackathon 110% of our effort and just smash it out of the park, because if we win it, I guess the upside could be really huge for us, and that was always the goal going into it. And so it was a pretty fun experience. Like we basically hunkered down in one of the guys' like apartments. We just kind of got the whole team there. We just set it up with all the gear, and we were just like whiteboarding from day zero, learning Anchor essentially, and just getting all our like fundamentals right, and just coding this thing up over 3 weeks. And 3 weeks sounds like a long time to build something, especially when you're working like 7 days a week on it. But honestly, it flies by pretty quickly. And we got to like halfway through the last week, and we still weren't ready. We were aiming to launch in that kind of last week, but we weren't ready, and it was just like a mad rush to get everything done. We were getting rate limited at the end, and there was like all these kind of issues trying to launch, but we kind of got it over the line, put a good video together, and kind of posted it, and we were kind of quietly hopeful that it'd come good for us. And thankfully the Solana judges thought the same, and we managed to win it, which was just like awesome for us, and I think just validated the idea that we were building, and that we were, I guess, a pretty strong team with like a good product. And so it's just all been good from then. I feel like there was a lot of good publicity from that. People were super supportive, and it just, got us to, product phase within a couple of weeks, which I think is awesome. And in crypto, where speed to market is everything, I think it was a great catalyst for us.
Yeah, definitely. It really just accelerates the whole process of getting a product and shipping it out and running with it. So I'm
Yep.
curious, do you think having your whole entire team in one location, kind of building together, gave you an advantage over other teams that are purely remote?
Yeah, I think absolutely. Yeah, I definitely joke about this. I think that was our secret weapon during the hackathon.
Yeah.
And it's something that's been more difficult now, given we've gone back into lockdown, like I haven't been able to work with the rest of the team in person, and it's definitely impacted productivity. And it's not as fun to work over Zoom meetings and kind of do pair programming remote and just not be able to have these kind of casual conversations over
Mhm.
like a lunch or something and talk about how you're going to do the margining system or something like that. So I think that was really fun, just being in the same room together. It was very quick to get stuff fixed. Like you don't have to wait and someone's, hey, they're off for lunch or they're off doing something
Mhm.
else. It's just like I just ping them a question, we like resolve it in 5 minutes. And so we moved really quickly and got a lot done. And it's just really nice to be in the same room as everyone because it's just like a melting pot of ideas. Like everything just is very smooth and moves very quickly. And I think that was a huge advantage because I imagine at least like 90% of teams would have been remote. Like either it'd be people
Mhm.
in different countries or you've just kind of picked up a few hackathon teammates on the like Airtable spreadsheet that they had just to find new teammates. And I feel like that's always hard. It's like, do you get along with them? And then just trying to, I guess, work together is a whole nother thing. Whereas I'd known most of the guys on the team for like a number of years. So we already kind of like clicked pretty well. And I think things were pretty smooth. So I'm hoping to continue that and keep that going in the future.
Yeah, I definitely say it was probably a really big advantage to have. Doing a lot of remote work. It sounds fun at first when you think, oh, I don't have to go into a job every day. I can just work from home. And then after,
Yeah.
6 to 12 months of sitting here every day at your computer, not necessarily interacting with people like that you work with in person, it's not the best. It really slows down, I think, a lot of progress as well. So
Yeah, I totally agree. And that was like a big reason I think why I petered off from my previous job in tech was I just worked for a US team and I was working there for like 1 to 2 years, essentially like entirely remote and like had never actually like properly, I guess, met the people that I was working with like face to face, which kind of
yeah.
sucks. And the time zone's obviously very bad. Like I would just have a bunch of morning meetings until 11 a.m. And then like the rest of the day is just, completely different time zone. And like the rest of my team is knocked off. So it was a bit of a
Yeah,
pain.
definitely. Yeah, so it seems like you guys have a really awesome community. You guys have gotten a lot of really good feedback, and it's great to see that growth. What is your team doing, to help grow and maintain the community? Is there anything that you guys have done special, in that aspect?
Yeah, good question. So yeah, as everyone knows, community is definitely super important in crypto. And I think we've really tried to value that from day zero. And so it was kind of crazy when we got started. We just put out a launch post, and I don't think we were expecting anything huge, but our launch post got like thousands of people retweeting it, and so many people joining our Discord. Like I didn't sleep for like 24 hours after we launched because I was just like moderating the Discord and just kind of monitoring everything that it was going all right. We ended up getting like 18,000 people, I think, joining up in
Jeez.
24 hours. It was just something mental. And, a lot of those were the kind of like airdrop folk who were just like, when token, when airdrop, and just trying to like, I guess, stop the flow of, thousands of people joining every hour and just like asking just like thousands and thousands of questions. It was just like insanity. And then it kind of normalized a bit more after that. You were getting more like legitimate questions in the Discord and people asking like, what kind of option strategies can you do? How's this going to work? And like giving feedback and stuff. So that was really good. And we've tried to engage people on that side of things as much as possible. The only difficulty is like options are pretty complicated. And I think
Mhm.
there's like a very like select few people in the community. Maybe like you could probably count them just, on the 10 fingers on your hands of like who actually like really, really know options from like crypto Twitter.
Yep.
Um, so it's been hard to just like go out to the community and necessarily like ask people how you'd build like, the ideal options platform. But it's been really good in a lot of other aspects, just, engaging them. And I think we do have a pretty strong community. And I think the main thing is like consistency and, just being really engaging with people. It's not like we do one big giveaway and then we just don't announce anything for the next month. It's like
Yeah.
we're trying to be really consistent with putting out content. And yeah, Sheep and Mars, who are our community managers, they're pretty much full time on this, putting in a lot of effort, I think, to run cool events to run, Twitter Spaces. We're trying to do consistently every 2 weeks. We're trying to do Discord stages where we give product updates and kind of like a community call. We're trying to do like regular Twitter posts, like threads on things we're working on, or like integrations I think are cool. We just put out a recent one with Serum as well, because we're doing a partnership there. So that got a lot of really great feedback. I think people are super excited for that. Josh is like, Sheep's pretty like active in the Discord, like always like chatting to people and gathering feedback. So yeah, I think we care a lot about community, and it's like trying to make people feel valued and use their contribution in the product is really important.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of really good points there. And it seems like, another part of kind of keeping that community is user experience. And it seems like you guys focus on that a lot. Especially with something like options, that's, like you said, really complicated for a lot of people. And not that many people are, super deep in options right now from crypto. So, how important is user experience for you guys?
For us, definitely one of the most important things. And I think it's something we debate quite a lot in the team internally. Like, obviously, we've got some people from trading backgrounds, and it's very important to get the trading functionality right. But by the same token, we don't want to just build like a pure trading platform, I guess, or we don't essentially want to mimic like Deribit, which is one of the very big crypto options kind of providers. We don't want to just, make a DeFi version of that, because I don't think that would really be a win in our books. It's really like geared towards instos and professional traders. It is very like functional and works incredibly well, but it's just very confusing to use, I think, for the average user. And at least given like my background and, some of the other guys in the team more from like the kind of product management perspective, we come from tech companies where building, I guess, enjoyable products is really important, and something that's like delightful for the end user, and not just like, how can I make money off this platform? Like, you want to enjoy, or I guess feel intuitive when you're using the platform. And so we're gearing our platform a lot around that. And I think there have been great use cases or examples of that. Robinhood and a couple of other trading platforms, I think, maybe not like gamified it necessarily, but really made it simple to onboard. And even if you're not a finance person by trade, you can kind of go on there, and now you see just random people in Wall Street Bets who can just punt options on Tesla stock who wouldn't normally know how to do it. But it's like you've given people the tools, I guess, and broken down those barriers to get in there. Because it's like, normally, how do you get into options trading? You have to go probably work at like a prop trading firm. You have to learn, all the specifics there and how all the Greeks work and this and that. And, you need to be trained over a couple of years. And so it's really only accessible, I think, to a very small amount of people, which is why it hasn't seen, I guess, widespread adoption. But that's why we're trying to reverse that, I guess, give people the tooling and also make it really simple and intuitive to use. And there's a lot of ways to do that. I guess one way that we're trying to do it, that's obviously probably the best way, is just to build the app in a way that is a very good user experience. So building stuff that's like very clean, very clear. You don't give too many people like too many options, I guess. With Deribit, you've got like the whole strike panel of like, you can choose like all, 100 options almost, or something ridiculous like that. It's just like a bit of information overload. So we're trying to simplify it and like guide people through the process a bit. Make it kind of in a couple of clicks, you can put on a trade, which would be really cool. We're also building for mobile first, which was a big change for us. We built this kind of, I wouldn't say complicated, it was, a bit simplified, but we built a web app first and had quite a lot of information. And then we did a survey on our user base, and it turns out 75% of people end up using mobile as their kind of primary device. And so we decided, yeah, exactly. It's kind of crazy, because I would never use DeFi apps on my mobile device at all.
No, I've never done that ever. I mean, I've taken like a couple trades, like not even really taking trades, just like been in a position, have to check Binance on my phone or something like that to, update something. But yeah, it seems definitely interesting that people are trading options, DeFi options on their phone.
Yeah, exactly. So that definitely like completely changed how I was viewing things personally, because I thought, everything for web. And then, I actually use Binance a lot on mobile as well, because it's just very convenient. And I feel like they have a pretty decent app. Whereas most stuff in DeFi, I feel like everything's very web optimized. No one has native apps. And that's probably the reason why no one actually ends up using it on mobile. But yeah, we decided to redesign it for mobile. And we talked to one of Solana's designers, and he was like, it's a really good idea to design for mobile, because then you, I guess, designed for information like sparsity you build in for a device that doesn't have a lot of real estate in terms of like screen real estate. And then when you're doing the web one, it's actually going to be a bit more simplified as a result. And so that's the approach we took of like building something that's still powerful but easy to use. And then I guess the last bit of like user experience is education, which we thought was really important at first, but also trying to force people to learn about options is kind of hard. And I feel like a lot of people just like don't have the initiative or aren't that interested to like do an options course or learn a lot about this. So we try and put out like bite-sized, I guess, like YouTube videos and sound bites and stuff, like educating people on that. But we also fully understand that not everyone on our platform is going to go out and want to learn and read the white paper, read the docs, like watch all these YouTube videos, because it's a bit of a pain in the ass. So we just want to make something that's fun to trade on. And it's like, I could sign up for Robinhood, probably like punt on a few options on the platform and just figure out how to trade just by like doing. And we think that's kind of probably the best way to go.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. And yeah, I agree with your point there, is like not everybody's going to go through the process of actually learning it, even if you provide all the material that they need. Yeah, so let's dive into some of the more technical aspects. Could you walk us through like the hybrid order book and options AMM model that you guys use?
Absolutely. So this is something that we do that's pretty unique. I don't think anyone else has really had a crack at this. But as I guess I've mentioned before, one of the reasons we built on Solana, probably one of the primary reasons, funnily enough, was because of Serum. No one else has really done an on-chain order book, like a fully on-chain matching engine, which we thought was super unique from the Solana perspective. So I guess hats off to the Serum guys. Pretty incredible work that they've done there. And so, order books are tried and tested in TradFi. Everyone uses them. They're kind of like the gold standard because they facilitate price discovery. They're really good for that. Whereas AMMs, although they have the nice characteristic of like almost like infinite liquidity, I guess, or like you can always like, have a taker for your trades. The downside is that you don't have as good price discovery. You're always like a price lagger in a sense. And it's always trading off this like theoretical curve, and you have impermanent loss and like a bunch of other issues which you have to worry about. So we wanted to, I guess, have the best of both worlds, where liquidity issues are what plague, I think, a lot of DeFi apps. And that's why AMMs are successful and why order books tend to not do as well sometimes. But then we wanted to, I guess, bring in the order book side of things where we could get price discovery, kind of like really efficient trading, I guess it's native for TradFi people as well. And so we wanted to do an order book based on Serum for derivatives, which we've kind of built out now. And that will be, I guess, like backed by our in-house options market maker model. And so that will basically be quoting consistently on our markets. And you can think of it like an auto trader. It's like a in-house counterparty that we've like built into our platform, and we've done a bunch of options pricing and other kind of like quant stuff, given that that's kind of our background, is a lot of this like math, statistics, and like options trading. We figured that's what we'd be good at, so we use like Black-Scholes and some kind of variations of that for our options pricing, and then we can basically quote two-sided on our markets. So it's not like you would just have an options order book and there's no liquidity there, and basically you have to have a market maker who's going to be quoting everything. Otherwise, like no one can trade. It's like we have this in-house market maker. It's going to be posting up regular orders on our order book. So the order books are kind of like liquid as soon as they start, which is going to be really cool. And then people can always kind of like trade against one another, or if they, need a trade on some kind of strike that's really illiquid, like they're always going to have a counterparty to trade against in terms of like the in-house market maker.
Yeah, that's really cool. Definitely really interesting stuff with the hybrid model there. And it's always really cool to see how projects are like composing with Serum and the order book. Have you talked to the Hero Network guys?
I haven't too much. Maybe I'll catch up with them. We're going to Chicago in a couple of weeks, so I should probably hit them up and say hi.
I was just there with Dan from Hero at the Solana office. So hit
Awesome.
me up if you go to Chicago. I'll definitely see if I'm available then.
Nice. I'll be there early November, so hopefully see you there.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So do you mind walking us through what the current DeFi options landscape looks like right now? whether that be
Yeah.
across the broader DeFi ecosystem on Ethereum as well, or just
Mhm.
specifically on Solana.
Yeah, absolutely. I can go over a bit of both. So when we started, there was definitely no options platforms. I think Psi options were just starting out. And we were mainly looking at what was going on in the Ethereum ecosystem. So in Ethereum, I think there have been options platforms around for maybe 2 years, I guess, since like the early days of DeFi. And the main ones that stood out, there are actually like quite a few, but the main ones that stood out, Hedgic is one that I think at the time when we were first doing our research had the lion's share of options volume, which was still quite small, I would say, back in those days, and still kind of is. And what they were doing was, I guess, taking a page out of Uniswap's book and building an AMM for options. And so that's a pretty cool idea. You're basically, the pool is always essentially selling options, and you can basically buy options off this like market maker, automated market maker at any time. And this worked, I guess, reasonably well. Like you always have a liquid market for options. You could always buy them. But then it also had, I think, quite a few inherent downsides in that you can never, like the pool is always selling and always has to kind of take the price of the buyer. So it's kind of once you contribute liquidity to that pool, you're always taking, I guess, the trades, and people can kind of like selectively trade against you. And that was something that we'd see a lot in the pool. We looked at like the Dune analytics graphs, and it was actually pretty like unprofitable to be a liquidity provider in Hedgic. You'd be losing quite a significant amount of money. One, because, I mentioned people can always trade against you and you have basically no say in what kind of trades you want to take. So it takes out all your kind of optionality there. And then the second bit is the pricing algorithm was pretty poor. I think there's like an approximation of Black-Scholes, and you have this volatility input, and they basically manually updated it like once a week, which is just really not going to cut it in like a proper market.
Yeah.
So, we didn't think it was very good, to be honest. And yeah, you looked at the graph, and people who'd been like liquidity providers for Hedgic were like down 20% or something ridiculous. It's like, why would you ever put your money in there? And the only reason people did it was because they were just printing Hedgic tokens for people. But I think when that started drying up, like a lot of people just started like pulling liquidity from it. So we didn't see this as being something that would succeed long term. But regardless, they were still doing like, I don't know, 100 mil plus in TVL, which is, not terrible, I guess.
Yeah.
The other one that we saw that was really good and that we think is like genuinely really well built is Open. And so I think it's like a bunch of Berkeley guys have just like gone and started building out an order book for options. They've been around for like a long time, like 2 years maybe. They're obviously backed by the Paradigm guys, and I think Dave White does a bunch of their kind of financial modeling for them, which is pretty awesome. And they have a pretty nice product. They recently did a redesign. They're doing like under collateralized options, which is really nice to see, and something that we prioritize a lot in our platform as well. But when we initially used Open, like it was completely unusable on L1. You're paying like just to put on an options, like, to buy a few options, you're paying like essentially $200 in gas fees. That's because you have to like mint this O token, and then you got to like trade it and then do a bunch of other stuff. So it's like a few steps, and so a few Ethereum transactions. And it's like, who's actually going to trade on this market that's not a whale if you're paying hundreds of dollars in gas fees? It was kind of ridiculous. And as a result, you look at like their actual order book, and there were maybe like 2 markets that had a couple of orders, and they were just doing some like pathetic amount of volume, and the like slippage was like ridiculous amounts, like probably like 10 or 20%, or I don't know. It was just like really like not great to trade on. I think they've improved things a little bit since then, and I think with platforms that compose of them, such as like Ribbon, which does these structured products on top of Open, we looked at the stats, I'm pretty sure, and like 95+% of volume on Open comes from Ribbon, just because they have these like different vaults strategies that they'll run over the top of it, and they almost use Open as like the settlement layer. I think that's the only reason that they've kind of got any volume at the moment, which is kind of crazy. Anyway, that's Ethereum. And then on Solana, you've got obviously ourselves. Psi Options launched like a little bit before us and won the previous hackathon, and they're building kind of American asset settled options, which is a bit different to what we're doing with European cash settled. But yeah, they've been building some pretty cool stuff, and really like the team. I think they're doing a great job, and they're on mainnet now, which is pretty impressive that they got out there. And they're building kind of, I guess, options trading on Serum essentially. We're trying to take it a little bit further. We're trying to have these nice to haves like margin efficiency. So having under collateralized options really important for us. You don't need to put up tons and tons of collateral to be able to trade. Like you can trade with just a very small amount, which we think just unlocks a lot of liquidity. We also have this options market maker, which no one has really done before, which we think is really cool. We're kind of integrating that. And yeah, a bunch of other stuff. Like we've made our thing super fast, super efficient, super liquid. And we've kind of talked to a bunch of trading firms as well who can kind of come in and market make on us, which we think is going to be really cool. And so we're building towards that deadline. Hero is another one which has come out. I don't actually know too much about their platform because, I think they're like not as open with what they're kind of working on, but it seems like they are doing some similar stuff. They're kind of building this order book out. They're trying to build some options pricing, options quoting stuff as well. I forgot what they called it exactly. But they seem like they have a smart team and they're building cool stuff as well. So we'll have to see where they go with that. Currently, all I've seen from their platform is they're doing these kind of, short-term binary options, which seems interesting, but is not really like the market that we're necessarily going for.
Yeah.
I know that was a bit of a long answer, but yeah,
No,
there's
that
kind of
was
a lot of
good
stuff out
info,
there.
especially for people that aren't familiar with too many of the options platforms out there. But yeah, I'm really excited about Zeta and what you guys are doing. It definitely seems like you're taking a bit of a unique approach compared to some of the other platforms out there. So really excited to see how this kind of grows over the next, 12 months or so. Do you have any exciting, news or things you're looking forward to on the roadmap over the next, let's say, 6 months or so?
Yeah, absolutely. So funny you mentioned this week, more or less, we're going to DevNet. So we had a previous product, which is our binary options product for the hackathon, but we ended up deciding to discontinue that just because the market's not really, I guess, wanting binary options. And because we built it in 3 weeks, I would say like we rushed to get that deadline and there was quite a lot of technical debt. So we ended up kind of rewriting our code base for this most recent product with all the learnings that we took from the hackathon, and it's just built much better now. I think we've built it like really for the long term, and so like quite impressed with like what we've managed to build there. And I know we've been probably a bit more quiet the last couple of months, like less active on Twitter and a few other things, just because we've been so heads down just trying to pump this thing out. But now we're kind of ramping up with the product mostly done and ready for DevNet. We'll definitely be posting a bunch of announcements. So I think it was like last night we got our first trade on DevNet working. Like internally, we were just testing the platform. I was building
on that. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. I was building like the options market maker with Epsilon, and we've kind of got that working, and we've been managing to post like all our theoretical prices on there for like our options pricing and like all the Greeks and all that kind of stuff, which we use within the platform and within the front end. So that's kind of all been hooked up and integrated. So now we're looking at like deploying it, getting it all running essentially on a server and, doing all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty exciting that, those kind of months of work are now finally coming together. Everything's being integrated together, the program side, the front end, and then the market maker that we have. So yeah, definitely stay excited for that, because we should be opening up, I guess, public kind of alpha for our full options platform within the next week or so, which I think will be awesome. So looking forward to getting a bunch of people on there trading on the platform. And as always, like really appreciate feedback that helps us build a better product. So we'll have a bit of a feedback board where people can kind of post ideas, and we'll really look to improve this as much as possible. We want to get to mainnet by the end of the year. So hopefully that gives us enough time to iron out any kind of bugs or inconsistencies, potentially get an audit, and then look to go to mainnet, which would be really cool. And then I guess the other probably big update is we're eventually looking to launch a token. I know we've delayed it a fair bit because we want to get the platform right in the first place. And I think that was the right decision, but we're going to try and launch a token around the time that we do mainnet, because we want to use it as like a functional utility token. It will help with, platform incentives such as like people participating in liquidations, people who are, putting money into our options market maker strategy. We want to kind of reward them with stuff like that. So we want to fit the Zeta token in there as kind of like an integral part of our platform. So even if you're not a pro options trader, I think there'll be a lot of really good options to get in, no pun intended, get involved in the platform. You can obviously trade options. You can also, contribute to this liquidity pool for the options market maker, which will kind of trade a strategy on your behalf. We're looking to do structured products as well. So you can kind of do like a put selling vault and kind of earn yield. So that's a really nice way where you don't really have to think too hard about it, and you just kind of earn this percentage APR on top of your money. And then, yeah, even if you don't want to trade on the platform at all, like we'll have a token if you think our business is going to be, if the project's going to be successful and you kind of want to go along on that, there's always the token that you can buy. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for people to get involved.
Yeah, it's really exciting for all that, and I'm sure a lot of people are looking forward to that token as well. I bet you got a bunch of questions already about that. But
Yeah, absolutely.
so, about to wrap this up. Do you have any questions or, excuse me, do you have any tips for people building in the Solana ecosystem, whether that's in the hackathon or, just building on their own?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say hackathons are, as we mentioned, obviously the best way to get involved. I think there's a lot of support in terms of a lot of other people will be building at the same time. So if you want to find a team, it's really good to find teammates. And I think there's just generally a lot of support. There's like a lot of these workshops going on. I kind of did a workshop in the most recent hackathon as well, and essentially how to build. So I would check that out. And there's a bunch of other stuff from a lot of the other teams, a lot of the people from the actual Solana team as well on how to get started. So they're really good resources. Getting involved in the hackathon's great. It's like a couple of weeks to just like put your head down and build something really cool. Most people in the community are just very receptive with feedback and ideas. Like there are always things that people want to build. So there's kind of a, steadily growing list of things that need to be built in the Solana ecosystem. So there's never a shortage, I guess. And there are a lot of interesting people now getting involved in the ecosystem. I'm seeing a lot of people moving from TradFi, from like Wall Street, from like, big tech fan companies over to crypto. So I think it's a good opportunity to work with pretty smart people in this ecosystem now. And I think Solana's kept a pretty high bar. I guess because it's a little bit more challenging to develop on, because it's like you have to learn Rust and, there's a bit more overhead. The people who are generally in the space are like pretty switched on, I would say, and pretty good engineers. But I wouldn't take that as like a deterrent that you have to be a 10x engineer or someone incredible to build in this ecosystem. I think that's definitely not the case. I think, just get started with something simple. Do some of the tutorials. There are a bunch of great ones out there now. They weren't really in the early days. It was a lot harder to get started, but learn Anchor, which Armani has built, that just makes your life so much easier. Build some kind of like small, simple programs. Even if you're a non-technical person, I think there are so many opportunities. Like everyone's looking for like marketing people, if they're engineers, or a bunch of smart teams looking for non-technical people, like business development, stuff like that. Then you've got like, even if you just want to do Discord modding and stuff part-time and help out projects, like there's always great opportunities there. I think there's no shortage of people trying to, fill those kinds of roles. So I think in every kind of corner of the Solana ecosystem, there's great ways to get involved. And, Solana themselves as well, putting out a bunch of grants and other kind of developer programs. Like, if you want to go to this Lisbon conference, they also like sponsor tickets for certain people. So I think they're really, encouraging of trying to get people to build on the platform. So definitely no reason not to get involved. And for me, I was definitely deliberating, like, do I go with my old job versus do I do this? And I think it's been a great opportunity, and I definitely haven't looked back making that switch.
Yeah, I love that. Definitely no shortage of resources nowadays. Like, seems like they're really starting to build up that resource base for everybody that's building in the ecosystem, whether that be, educational material, capital, filling those roles, all of that. There's definitely
it's another thing. If you're building a
there.
Solana project, like don't worry, you'll get funding. Like everyone wants to fund Solana projects now, so you can get off to a pretty strong start, I'd say.
Yeah, man. Well, this has been really fun. I really appreciate you coming on the show and, chatting about Zeta. Is there anything else you want to, give out to the audience?
Not too much other than like jump headfirst in. Like we'd love to see more people in this space and really kind of bring Solana to the forefront of DeFi. If you're an Ethereum builder, definitely take a look at it. I think it's pretty interesting. Or even if you're a non-crypto person, I think it's a very exciting space that's very high growth, high upside to get involved in. So, even if you're doing it part-time, it's pretty fun. And if you are interested in options and derivatives, even if you're not a pro trader, we'd definitely love to get you on the platform. Trade.zeta.markets will be up in a couple of weeks, and yeah, feel free to have a play around with it. It will just be DevNet with kind of paper money, I guess. So you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Should be pretty fun, and product feedback's always appreciated.
Awesome, man. Well, yeah, like I said, it was great having you on. I really appreciate it.
Not at all. Thanks for having me.
Yep. We'll chat soon. See ya.
See ya.